good start. And with that, welcome to the first time I am hosting without AJ here to guide me. This is Reviews from Hell on Infamous Horrors, and I am Steve Wandling, and with me is G, who people will know from Revenge of the Deadites, right?
Hail to the Deadites.
It's the same name. I was trying to make it more clever than I just was trying not more clever. Let's back up. We'll edit all that out. No,
okay.
But yeah, no, it's awesome to be here. I was afraid I wasn't going to have anybody to talk about bodies with, which is why we're here. New A24 slasher / satire that is creeping its way wider and wider. I live in pretty rural as it gets in West Virginia, so it started here this past weekend, and I went out and saw it immediately. But yeah, so I think if it's playing here, it's got to be pretty much playing everywhere else now that it could possibly be. Yeah, we were just going to kind of talk about it and give thoughts. If you wanted to give any opening stuff, general thoughts on bodies.
Are we allowed to do spoilers?
I say yes. We never really worry about that.
Okay. I loved it. I'm a Gen Z. I'm 21. So this was, I felt like I was being seen on screen for the first time because I know people that talk like they do in the movie.
Yeah.
So it was just like, oh my God, like I know these people.
Right.
I thought it was really cool and really well executed. And it was awesome. The soundtrack was really good. The acting was fantastic.
Crazy good. Soundtrack is crazy good. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was super cool. I saw it at the drive-in, like the first night it played. So that was like
cool.
Yeah, it was a double feature with Bullet Train, which I did not enjoy, but.
Yeah, I saw that too. And I just I think my eyes glazed over in Bullet Train about the fourth ending of that movie. And then characters that should have died inexplicably came back, and they would ruin what little decent arcs they had. It was just such a weird movie. I just thought it. Anyway, Bodies is a much better movie. That's an awful feature, but that's on a drive-in. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Yeah, no, I see. Okay, I'm 37. And I knew what the movie kind of was going into it, and just the way the marketing and the trailers, I kind of was expecting a little bit a deconstruction or satire, which is what it ends up definitely being. But I gotta say that I loved it. I thought that the way, I know some of youths, some younger folk out there that I guess would talk like this, but it is just such a different way, because I don't want people to think this movie is necessarily, it can, maybe it's not mean-spirited in a way where it's like a bunch of dudes in MAGA hats, like sitting around throwing, empty beer cans at Gen Z kids and laughing about participation trophies or some shit. Like it is a very self-aware. I thought about a good double feature would be like maybe Spring Breakers or something like that.
Yeah.
Like that kind of just like, it's like skewering yourselves in a way that seems like only you are allowed to do yourself and can aptly do yourself. But it's like, immediately everybody, so basically, spoiler alert, if go see it before you even consider listening to this, if you hear it, it's because it will not have the same effect. But, it is definitely this whole situation where everybody is just, you come into the situation, these kids are young adults. I'm not exactly sure, but, young.
They're in their 20s probably. Yeah, I don't know. They're like drinking and stuff. So,
kids, sure. Except for Greg, who's definitely should not be hanging out there. but so it's like all these kids seem like it's really easy to want to immediately be like, oh my God, these idiots, but it's like these kids are constantly, I feel like, kind of gaslit, like immediately. Like you get this, this whole kind of existence. It's like, how could they not? And all their friends, they all hate each other. It's like,
I know.
The people they have to exist around. I just feel it's like, my God, it's like, I do remember like how cliquey people can be. And I don't know if it's worse, like with, but it just seems like this particular set of like I think of like affluenza. Like, do you remember that kid that got off of? I think it was a murder because his defense successfully argued something called affluenza a few years ago, and so this kid who, well, actually, I think that he was an adult, but he was a young adult, and he was white and he was wealthy, and so they bought it. The jury was like, "Yeah, we buy it," and so he didn't go to prison for that. And that's what I just kept thinking of, like, the whole time. It's just these kind of, this pitch black, and it's definitely a comedy. Like, I would say this is like, but with like this and X in the same year, I think it's kind of challenging with like what an A24 film is.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of get that whole, like, there's the meme and all A24 vibes and all that. There was this group that I joined on Facebook that is, I thought it was a joke, but they're absolutely serious about A24, this A24 vibes thing. And so that studio, as a distribution studio, if nothing else, is like taking a lot of these different kinds of chances. Like, because I remember going to see something like Lamb from them recently. And, it's not that I necessarily didn't like Lamb. I thought it was interesting, but I did think it kind of got to a conclude, like you kind of reached an endpoint. If you go back to even say like The Witch and Hereditary and Midsummer, move through this kind of like grief as horror kind of, and you get to Lamb, I think that it just reaches a point where it almost is like an SNL sketch of, you know what I mean? It's almost so I really, did you see X yet?
I did. I loved it.
I didn't. I thought it was so good. It was one of those times I sat down in a movie theater and I just wasn't ready for the time I was about to have. And I haven't seen it again. I haven't seen it at home or anything yet. So like, it's still really, but it's still, that was like March, I think. It still plays still in my mind. So I'm just like, I want to see it again before Pearl. But yeah, so the whole A24 is doing, like, it seems like they're taking big swings this year. But like with something like X, like, it's kind of out there as that is, this is a less like marketable movie, I think, in the long run. I think this is one of those movies where expectations of people that are willing to go pay to see this movie in the first place in the theater are going to have like maybe some adverse reaction to it. But you know what I mean? Because I just, it's so smart that I just feel like maybe it's smarter than like the people that would show up. When people realize that it's not actually a slasher, and that it's, or it's not that it's not a slasher, but that it's like, kind of thinking outside the box of what a slasher is.
Yeah, and I think they definitely marketed it as a slasher movie, because like going into it, I was like, oh, like someone's going to be the killer. And then the whole time I was like sitting there in my car being like, they're the killer. No, wait, they're the killer. No, it's them. It's the two of them. And then it was like, it was no one.
I thought it was immediately, I was just suspicious of the girl from Borat. It was the new Borat, the Maria, I don't want to butcher her last name.
Bakalova? I don't know. I looked up the name.
I'll let you do it.
I think that's how you pronounce it.
Yeah, because I knew I recognized her, and I said, "Oh my God, that's the girl from the newer Borat film." So yeah, that immediately, just that, she's the outsider, you're bringing her in. They want you, just, I was doing that thing too, like you said, like every 15 minutes, like something would change. But there was a point in time where I did like call the actual last reveal, the last big trick played on everybody. Like, I called that in like a joking way, as in like I leaned over to my girlfriend and said, "Wouldn't it be funny if blah, blah, blah?" And, and then we even both kind of laughed at each other, but, because I was joking, like I was just kidding, because it kept twisting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a really, like, you even have somebody like Pete Davidson in there, who has become such like this kind of like face of whatever he did. I mean, I don't know if I could have even said that better if I tried, talking about Pete Davidson, the face of whatever ... Pete Davidson. Yeah. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie that was more made for somebody to play that role, actually. I mean, and even if you think about something with Spring Breakers, when you have somebody at the time, when I even think of like the weird performance that James Franco gave in that movie, and then you have like Pete Davidson, and you get these kind of like weird kind of performances that it just seem like this movie almost seems like a fever dream of what people are afraid Gen Z are all up to.
Yeah,
definitely.
definitely.
Like do you hear these kind of horror or like everyone's got this idea that that Euphoria is hitting way closer to home and or something like that. So yeah, I do. I it's like, so who exactly is like the movie making fun of, really? You know what I mean? And so it does have that, but the twist of it, like I really did get caught up in it as it was going on, and I didn't give it that credit till later at how suspenseful it is, because there's the twist, but you getting there.
There's a lot of stuff leading up to it. It like plays like a really strong case for like everyone being the killer, really. So you're just sort of like on the edge of your seat, like,
yeah,
who is it?
Yeah, and it's one thing to be like, oh, the twist, like, or whatever, but then I start thinking about that, like how good of a screenplay that has to even be from the get-go, and just how much nuance goes into this, and it starts just building up in my head how much I wasn't even necessarily appreciating it, in a way that it just keeps building on me as the days go on here. And that is a movie I wanted to see a second time, but we just got it. So I we were the only two people in the theater though, which, that's a shame, but it's always cool to feel like it's like a private screening or something like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And this is, thinking of just like apt movies too, like thinking of like atmosphere and kind of mood setting, like this movie has this whole, I like single location movies, like recently, like a lot of new stuff like Glorious on Shudder, and things like the movie Clue, speaking of other mysteries like that, they kind of have a picture black comedy feel to them. I think I just love that about this movie, that you could almost see somebody, like, you remember the Alien stage play from a few years ago that the high school kids all put together in New Jersey? Something like that. Like, I don't know why my mind always goes to something like that, or like an Evil Dead the musical, and I don't know if it's the theater kid in me, but I just become a sucker for anything. I'm like, oh, I could see like a community theater, like really doing this next fall. And Bodies has that kind of feel to it. Like it just, and because it is really all about the character work, right? I mean, and all these, I don't know, who was there somebody that you like kind of attached to at first that you thought was the funniest, or that you kind of rooted for the most?
Rachel Sennett as Alice. I've loved her since that video where she's like, come on, it's LA. If you don't have an eating disorder, get one, bitch.
Yeah, I didn't see that till after. Like So
I've loved her since then. So, and I loved her in Shiva Baby and all the short films she's done. So being able to see her on like a big screen, just like screaming and crying and being like, he's a Libra moon. I've just felt so proud of her. So she was definitely sort of my favorite, or like the biggest standout. But really, like, besides like Lee Pace and the girl from Borat and Pete Davidson, like a lot of and I guess like Amanda Stenberg, is that how you say it?
Yeah, Stenberg.
Like I hadn't really heard of the other actors, and they like knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, and even like just being like this ensemble thing, like being able to not overpower somebody. Like when you just mentioned Shiva Baby, that's one of the coolest movies I've seen for years. I feel like I never hear anybody talk about it enough. Like it should be brought up more. It's so cool. But just this, there's a lot of fresh faced people that are in this movie. And it just, like, I also looked up the director, who I didn't think I knew, and apparently actor, performer of some kind, like before this, before switching to directing. So, and I think that kind of just knowing that there's that experience, obviously on the one side of the camera, it doesn't really surprise me then to go, oh, well, they probably had to be good with the actors to get this kind of, because it really does feel like you're eavesdropping or a fly on the wall of this people that have known each other for a long time.
Yeah.
This, and the relationships, it is like an onion almost. Like you really do get just dropped into this situation, and these people all have like these sprawling, complicated relationships. And again, good writing, because that could have easily gotten muddled really quickly with how all these people were connecting. And it didn't. Like it really worked. And Yeah, except again, Greg was to me like suspect but it's just creepy that Greg was there.
Yeah. But I mean, that's like accurate. Like in this group of friends with like these personality traits, it doesn't surprise me that one of them just has like a super old boyfriend who's like trying to be like hipping in with the kids and like opening champagne with a sword and stuff.
Yeah, and just just everybody. They even make the joke in the movie, and the word is toxic, like one of the most clickbait words of the era, But it kind of, and I know part of it is skewering just that very idea, but then you also have these like undeniably super toxic people in these really toxic relationships doing really toxic things for however long the runtime of the movie is. But one thing about the movie that I did think love, but I guess this goes back to like Carpenter or Goblin or anything like that, is you mentioned it already. The score for me was so good, like that I would, I immediately want to just listen to this, as I'm writing or, and so like, I thought that really adds to, obviously like, but it kind of exists as its own like album. Like I almost thought, like I like those when kind of blends all together. But it's like, is it an album first? Was it music for a film or or whatever? But
yeah,
I thought that it worked really well. But now it's like I have it in my head and I sit here and I just like points to Priya, But so yeah, I don't know if you've got things. I just ramble.
Yeah. I rewatched it. Totally
you did rewatch it.
Totally legally rewatched it.
Yeah, of course.
I made a couple notes. So first off, this film has an amazing use of practical lighting. Like sort of everyone is being lit by the lights in the room and like the headlamp and stuff and like the glow sticks and
yes, glow sticks, lighters, and we're in a big storm, and a lot of it when it went dark, it goes dark. That's awesome, and that adds to the storm too. Yeah.
And then the dialogue just felt so natural for like people that are just chronically online. Like I wrote down like just constantly one-upping each other for clout. Like when Bee's character is like, my mom has borderline, and Rachel Senden is like, I've never told anyone this before, but I have body dysmorphia. And everyone's like, shut up.
Oh, yeah. That was the first that I know that my girlfriend laughed out loud at that part.
Yeah, there were lines I snorted at, like, don't call her a psychopath. That's so ableist. And then
it's so ableist.
It's so funny. And then I thought like having some lesbian characters was awesome representation, even if they're horrible people and we're cheating on each other and stuff, but that was still awesome. I wrote Alice dying was my Iron Man dying in Endgame. I was even thinking that when I was watching it at the drive-in. I was like, this is my Endgame.
Well, I do have to ask you then, because when I went to the Endgame premiere, which that is the one of those premieres I was ever at. And it was surreal because there was this guy who had like a Blue Lives Matter shirt on, probably something, or like a Punisher skull, it was like just super, roughneck looking guy. He was living the part, he probably had like a dip in and like a cup to spit it in throughout the movie, when Iron Man died, for the rest of the movie, I had to like crane neck to look and see who it was. And it was that guy I noticed for the film. He was bawling. It was like I was at his wife's funeral or something. Like I'd never, it was noticeable. And so, it's, So there were some people that I saw take that Iron Man Endgame death pretty seriously.
Yeah.
But it is like, and that kind of like, there were surprises to me. You don't want to see you don't want to feel safe at all in this movie.
No, not at all.
You really don't, and you don't at all. Like there's actually you are probably shocked at how unsafe some people, I'm sure, will be, at how unsafe some people are. So I think that all really plays into it. Yeah.
I have one thing.
I'm just living for your notes here.
And then I have very accurate representation of toxic girlfriend groups. And then especially the part where they're going like, he's my best friend. Like we're best friends. Because people do that. They'll like meet someone and talk to them for like a week, they'll be like, they're my best friend, and I can't imagine my life without them. And it was just very accurate. And then like was her name Sophie and B, like their relationship, and he was like, I love you. And it was like, how long have you been together? And they were like, 6 weeks.
Yes, it hurt. Like
this is the representation for my generation I needed.
It's like, oh, we need this shitty representation. It's important as any other representation. Yeah. Maybe, at this point, probably got to get that shitty representation. And this movie serves that up. And a lot of that stuff that you're talking about, too, just the way that because immediately she comes in, he's my best friend. He obviously like does not even want to see her. Like it's visible to everyone else there that everyone either has like mild bemusement or outright, why the fuck are you here? And she doesn't even miss a beat. And it just, it just from that moment on, it just kind of captures exactly where everybody's going. And you're right with this kind of cloud, this one upping. It made me just feel so like kind of. It just gets like I'm laughing, but at the same time I'm kind of like cringing. I'm kind of like, oh my god, like because I do like I've spent too much time. It just made me feel like I spend way too much time online, and like it is very much like Lord of the Flies. Like obviously, I guess it's like that's all I kept thinking about the whole time. I was like, oh, okay, so we're doing a Lord of the Flies thing here.
Lord of the Flies, Mean Girl, Love Child.
Oh yeah, yes, absolutely, yeah. No, that should be a pull quote right there. That should. Well, usually AJ. And thanks for sticking with me. Like I said, I've never done one of these on my own before.
No problem.
So this was fun. And I appreciate you talking to me about it. AJ usually asks like I think like either a 1 to 5 or like if you want to do like a letter rating or something like that as a recommendation for Bodies, what would that be?
I would give this a 4 out of 5 stars or a B+.
Ah, yes. Very good. I like that. Yeah, hopefully we can keep the letter system. This is my way of bringing it in and asking him to do that instead because I prefer it. But I think I'm right there. I would do definitely like sometimes AJ will break it down too to where he'll be like, it's like a 4.25. He's like a 3.75. It's like if I'm in a good mood, we'll come back to a 4. No, but I would give it a 4 for sure. A good solid A-, kind of B+. It's great. And especially, there's that buy the ticket, kind of take the ride attitude of like, I think that people, I think we all get online a lot, obviously, but we all see a lot online of the same shit from people that are always complaining about every movie and these same people that hate everything and just everything. And, I forget they hate so much. I forgot what I was even saying with that. Like, just don't listen to. These are the type of people that won't take that ride and that will miss every point of the movie and just say really obvious things about it. Like it's not even really a slasher or whatever with the strange pain face. But ignore them and go check it out because it's great. And you can your podcast. I'm going to get right is. Hail to the Deadites. Yes, and that's also on Infamous Horrors. And you will see me better run and corralled by AJ next time we're back on Reviews from Hell. And thanks very much again.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Hopefully, do it again sometime.
Yeah.